Hi everyone. In this video, we're gonna see how we can deploy Chroma DB, as a server instance, so that we can access it as a client. So we could use Chroma DB, without server, just like installing a normal library. If you are not aware of what is Chroma DB or if you haven't used it earlier, so it is one of the vector database, and I have already created a beginner tutorial where we install the Chroma DB as a library. Then we saw how to use Chroma DB, how to add documents to that vector database, and even in this video we have seen how to use custom embedding model other than default what Chroma DB is offering. So if you're not familiar, you can go and check this video. I will put this video link into the description. This video also had one notebook which has all the code using Chroma DB. So this video is not actually about how to use Chroma DB in terms of like document and all of those things, but it is more about how do we do the same thing as a hosting Chroma DB. And first of all, why should we host Chroma DB, right? So when you use Chroma DB like this, normally so the database is nothing but just one folder that you create here. It will be just one folder will get create. No, here I don't have, but the folder will get create, and that will be your database, right? But let's say you want to update some document. Let's say I'm in the Google Colab notebook and I want to simply upload couple of documents to my vector database. So, I can't do either. I have to again download that particular folder, update it, and again I push it on our wherever our server is there. Similarly, if I'm doing something on a local host on my laptop, right, if I update something, I need to make sure I copy paste that folder again. So you want to rather, you want to make sure you access Chroma DB as some hosted service or hosted server, so that you can access it from anywhere. It could be your laptop, it could be your Google Colab notebook, or even from the multiple applications. And that's what we're gonna, we're gonna see, follow this particular, document which is about the deployment. So one of the approach they have given is here that we could see, we could actually run Chroma DB as a Docker image. So first of all, we need to have a Docker and EC2 instance. So I'm going to try on EC2 instance, right? So I'm here on the my EC2 dashboard. We can search for the EC2 services. Let's create one EC2 instance just for the purpose of this particular tutorial, so that we know what kind of maybe challenges we face, right? So maybe I can call it something like a Chroma DB, and maybe I will choose the Ubuntu. Go down. So they have suggested, I don't know where exactly I read, but they have suggested that we should have yeah, 2 GB RAM on a VM, right? So maybe I choose something better than the 2 GB instance having maybe more than 2 GB RAM, something. This has 8 GB, this has 4 GB. So I'm going to choose this maybe 4 GB RAM instance. Key pair, let's create a new key pair just for the purpose of this thing. Maybe I call it again a Chroma DB instance or something. And let me download this key pair. So this is the key pair that we're going to use if you want to connect to this EC2 VM or EC2 server, right? All other things I think we can keep it constant. Maybe if you want to increase the memory, instead of let's say 8 GB, we can have a 16 GB of the volume, EC2 volume. And yes, that's it. Let's launch this instance, and once it get launched, we can actually connect to this instance. So I think they have initiated instance. You can click here. Okay, and then we can, so it is in the pending state. This is its public IP address that we can use actually to connect to the VM, right? Meanwhile, let's go and check what they're right. So these are the different ways you can deploy. One of them was is actually Docker. You can run it as a Docker image. You can create your own image on the EC2 VM itself. This is how, once you have the Docker install, you can connect using the Chroma DB HTTP client. We will see, no need to worry about this thing. They have also given the other ways of the AWS deployment, you know maybe some other thing which cloud formation, which I'm not much aware of actually. So I'm gonna use the Docker way of doing thing, right? That's what I'm gonna focus. So let's focus only on this particular thing, which is the Docker way of doing things. Let's go back to and see our instance is running, so we can connect to our instance. If you click on a connect, you will see there are multiple ways you can connect to your instance. You can connect as the SSH client, where you could you can use this command where our PEM file, and this is your VM address, and we should be able to connect it. And you could use instant connect also, simply using the browser, so you can connect, and you should be able to connect to, let's say, EC2 instant. Okay, so we are at now VM. So I just asked ChatGPT to install Docker on EC2 Ubuntu VM, because I don't remember the steps and I haven't tried these steps actually earlier. So maybe I just tried this thing in front of uh, you, whether we are able to do all of those steps to install the Docker on this particular VM. So the first step was, I guess, simply updating the whatever the VM we have. Okay, so that step is done. The next thing, maybe let's do this thing, whatever this install prerequisite for our Docker or something. If this all steps works, I will add those steps into the description, or the whatever the notebook that I'm gonna provide. Once we install the Docker, then it will be pretty easy actually to have that thing. Is it running or not? Okay, this additional libraries, whatever it wants to install, maybe we can read more about it. Install the necessary package that allows app to use repositories. Okay, so it's required to know some repositories so that it can download, let's say, the Docker from there. And then what is this? Is again official Docker repository or something. Let's see. Now we're gonna follow this particular thing. I think this got completed. What is this? Add a Docker repository. Again, maybe you guys can go and read more about it. And then finally, again, what we have to do, again update after adding the Docker repository. Let's do these things. Again, you can read more about, you can simply go and search how to install Docker, but here my focus is not the install the Docker, rather using the Docker to install our Chroma DB. So I'm just following whatever the things I getting right now. This is maybe where we're gonna install actually the Docker, by after installing all its prerequisite. Hope so it installs. Let's see. Unpacking Docker building plugin. Fine, seems to be it is kind of installing the Docker CLI. Okay, now let's see whether whatever the steps we have followed till the point installing requirements to the Docker CLI, let's see whether Docker is installed there properly. Docker version is yes, so you could see the Docker is successfully installed. So now we could actually run our um, Chroma DB here. So let's go back to this thing here, and this is what they are saying. Once you have the Docker, you can pull the Docker image from the Docker hub. So this will be official image actually provided by the Chroma DB. Oh, we got some permission issue. Permission denied while trying to connect to the Docker daemon. This is this. What if we use the sudo? Yes, anyway, we're gonna ask ChatGPT what is the issue. Okay, if I use the sudo, it's gonna pull the image. Okay, I think we have pulled the image. Now let's follow again. I don't remember anything. I don't remember any step, any command, and there is no point remembering anything now when we have a chat gpt. I just want to make sure I know how to get things done. So I'm not gonna remember anything. I'm not gonna simply run now this thing. which is, so basically this is just to pull the docker image. Now this, once we have the image, we're going to use the docker run command to run this particular image. And this is like a port mapping. Here we are saying that the 8000 port of my VM has to match to the 8000 port of the whatever the docker which is running inside, right? That's what it is gonna do. And let's go back, and hopefully docker runs. No, again we have to use sudo to run the docker. Rebuilding HNSW to ensure architecture compatibility. So again, it seems to be downloading certain things prerequisite to run this thing. You could see Docker is nothing but a, seems to be a fast API or UVCon server. I think so. Yeah, it seems to be a fast API or the UVCon, because we see the UVCon is running 8000. This seems to be a fast API server simply. Okay, so it's running, and we can access actually this particular server. Now let's see how we can access this thing. Now if it is running, we can access it using the our host IP address and the port is anyway 8000, it is running. So let me take this value. I think I put it that code here. So first let's access the same Chroma DB server which is running on our EC2 instance, from here. So let's first install the Chroma DB on our Google Colab notebook so that we can connect to our EC2 server there. Okay, I think it got installed. Now we're gonna use that same thing what they have mentioned, import Chroma DB and the host. We need to put our own, let's say we need to put our own IP address what we have. Let's go back to our instance from here, and we had that public IP, right? This is the public IP. Let's copy that public IP. We go to this and use our public IP, and it is running on the same port. And now let's create the collection. So the steps remain the same irrespective. As I told you, you can go and check the earlier tutorial where we go into detail. Here we just want to show whether we are able to connect to our Chroma DB instance or not. So let's create the collection, and this thing is running. Okay, seems to be something wrong. It keeps running. It means it definitely has some connection problem. It simply keeps trying. This should not take much time. What could be the wrong? The one thing I could definitely see what is wrong is this port 8000. Does our EC2 instance has this port open? If not, it's not gonna work. So we should be going and checking. Also, one more thing, just curiously I want to try because I haven't tried. So we know that the fast API runs on 8000 slash docs, because if it is running this one we just saw, it's running on this port. So usually we access the docs like that. Seems to be, let's say 8000 is not open. Let's go back to our instance and edit our security rules. Let's go to the security tab. We have I think there is no inbound rules, right? So we need to add them. Let's go to the security group. Inside the inbound rules, let's edit the inbound rules, and we will add one more rule saying that custom TCP, which port we want to allow the port 8000, and it should be accessible from anywhere, and done. Let's see. So now 8000 port should be accessible now. What, this will work? I'm not sure. This was, oh, it works. See, I'm so this is I'm damn sure they are using like a fast API to host their Chroma DB server, and the moment we open the port we are able to access. It means we should be also able to access here now. Let me stop this thing and let's rerun it. Now it runs successfully. It means the port is now open. That was the problem. We are able to access our VM, right? and we can, let's say, create the collection. I think we already created the collection. Now get that collection, and let's add something to it, like two documents to text. One is like something related to the cat car. We can add some metadata. Again, go back to the previous video to understand these concepts, not in this particular video. Here we just wanted to see whether we are able to do this thing. If you see, we haven't specified any model name, and so it is using by default this particular model name. So if you want to understand how can I use my own embedding, let's say you want to use another sentence transformer model, or you want to use the OpenAI embedding with the Chroma DB, you can go and check, because in this video I have actually shown how to use different embedding. Yeah, here I have seen shown here how to use another sentence transformer model as an embedding that you can go and check. So I think it is, let's see whether it is working or not. We got the, I'm going to ask something related to the cat, and I expect the cat document should come. Yep, so the cat related document is coming. So what if I ask about the dog? And you could still see the cat related document is coming, because this is about the animal, this is about the vehicle, and if I'm asking about the dog, semantically it should match the dog. What about I ask about the bike? So if I ask something about the bike, you could see the document which is matching is about vehicle. So that's the beauty of semantic search. Even though these two words are different, it understands the semantic meaning behind it, right? So this is how we are able to connect. If you just want to make sure you're really connected or not, let's try one more thing. Maybe I remove this thing, let's see, and I right, and then we again run this particular statement, and you see it will take a time because it is not able to connect to that particular VM. So it did actually connected to our VM. That's why we are able to access that particular in from the collab notebook, right? So let's go back to the previous one, and I think, yeah, now it should work. See, so it does working, right? So this is how you can host actually your Chroma DB, and then you can access it from anywhere, like Google Colab Notebook. You can access it from your local host, and whatever the things you could do once, right? So it was pretty simple. The complex steps were actually installing the Docker, which again we don't need to remember. Maybe I make sure I add these steps to notebook or somewhere when I upload the video, so that you can also follow the same steps, or simply you come to ChatGPT and ask how to install Docker on EC2 VM. Maybe you can go and explore what these all APIs. We don't need to worry about them. For the just curiosity, we just check because it was saying this thing, kind of a thing. Okay, you could see. So when we created the collection, it actually hit the collection endpoint. When we get the test collection, it also hits the test collection endpoint. This is how, yeah, so this is how it is working. Whenever you do some action here, it is, we are calling that API actually, which is nothing but the fast API server what we have, right? Again, if you say this actually running, we could run it in actually in a background mode, right? This is actually kind of how do I quit this thing? So that is the problem. So this now particular, so we should use in detach mode. So Docker has a detach mode. We should ideally instead of running docker run hyphen p, we could use hyphen d also, which is mean the detach mode. I'm not sure why it's not okay. Don't know, maybe I reconnect, and just to show you that we could run it actually in the detach mode. Where is our instance? This is our instance. Okay, and okay, why not we connect, let's say, in a different way. We just connected, right? So let's connect different way. Maybe let's connect via this SSH way, right? We require our ChromeDB file, and we should be able to do this thing, right? So first of all, where is our file? I think we had our file here. That needs to go to, maybe for simply accessible, I go to the projects. I think I can put that file here inside somewhere in the Chroma DB instance, right? Because I had open here. This is where our file. So let's go to the Chroma DB. Okay, so we could see our PEM file is here. Now let's do the SSH request, or server as per whatever the command is given here. We can copy this ssh command, come here, and let's do. Because this pame file is already presented to the same folder, I don't need to give any path or anything extra. Oh, what happened? Yes, let's connect. Okay, so what happened? Something wrong? This is one of the thing that always come. Maybe I think one way is actually I could use the git bash for the same thing, but still I think I need to change the permission of the this particular file. So same thing. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT to give me the command to change the permission in the git bash. Maybe I simply type a keyword git bash so that it understand I'm inside the git bash. Array, this is bullshit. I just want no such a file or directory. Yes, because I didn't go into the Chroma DB. Sorry. Okay, now I'm in the correct path and go back. We're gonna get the same error maybe, right? No, no, here we didn't get the error. Okay, so that only PowerShell was actually asking to changes the permission, but the Git bash was I think okay with that permission. Fine. So here we are on the same VM. Now maybe go back to the again those command and try to run those command. This was working out. Let's close this thing and we go back to again the Chroma, and let's run this thing. But I wanted to run in a detach mode. I think -d is actually for that detach mode. So maybe we go again here, and here we type one more parameter which is -d for the detach mode. And what happened? Again permission deny. We go into the sudo. Hmm, failed chroma error response driver failed programming. Okay, port is already, so it's actually it is running already. This port is running something. So let's check all the running processes, the uvcon processes. So we can say ps-f. This is the only one command I just remember, and maybe I do grep to find process which has uvcon name. So you could see Chroma DB app, which is the fast API, is already running here on the 8000 port. Hmm. Let's kill that process then. What if I just kill that process? Operation not permitted. What if I do the sudo? I think so. It got killed. Let's see whether any process now running. UVCon process. No UVCon process is running. Maybe now we can again try our command, which is running Docker in a detach mode. Okay, seems to be it is running indeed, because you don't see anything here because it started running in the background. But how do we know whether it is still running? Let's go back and maybe we can at least check our API is running or not. Yeah, it's still running. It means now we can go and check. There should be some process running, uvcon process running. Yes, it started running. So this is how you can also run in a detach mode, so that your terminal gets free and then you can do whatever things you want to do. Okay, so this is all about actually how do we host Chroma DB, the Docker, and all of these things. Maybe in the description, or I attach a notebook which will have all these steps what we perform, including this thing, including the Docker deployment, and the including the how to run it in a detach mode, right? I hope you found this video useful, and I try to do directly, without much preparation, so that you could see what I would do really if I want to do the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing, going to the chat GPT, search something and see how things works, right? Thank you very much.